Hello there! This is a video about IELTS Listening Section 2. So today we're going to look at the 3 key skills and 3 kinds of tasks that can come up in the IELTS listening test. And believe me, you're going to need to know how to do these if you want to achieve your band score. And of course, there will be authentic exam tasks with answers so you can see exactly how well you do in this section of the test. So stay tuned. So if you're planning on taking the IELTS test or you just want to know more about it, then go on, subscribe to Home Studies. IELTS Listening Section 2. Well, what is that all about? It is a talk or a speech given by one person who is sometimes introduced by another person. And they talk about a topic of general interest, so this is not academic. They could talk about something that is on at the moment, for example, a festival or a concert. Or they could talk about a project or a place of interest. There are usually 2 tasks, and these can be a multiple choice activity, a matching task, perhaps you have to complete a diagram or a table, something like that. And there are 10 questions. Now, as always, there is a short pause in the recording after one task ends and before the next task begins. Listen for the main ideas. Now, the main idea is the central point or thought that the speaker wants to communicate. In IELTS Listening Section 2, specific questions about the main idea are not that common. We don't see them very often. But that said, it's really important to understand the main ideas and to pay attention to them. Sorry, what? I know it sounds strange, but even if the main idea isn't specifically tested, it is still important to understand it. You see, the main idea gives you the context for everything else you hear. So if you don't get that, then you could find it very difficult to follow along and pick out the most important details. And that means you could lose points by giving wrong answers. And that's the last thing you want to do, right? To understand exactly what I mean, let's read through some of the main points from a talk about an architectural development called the cube. So number 1, the cube's construction is well underway. Number 2, the program is currently over halfway through its development. Number 3, from February, the glistening golden exterior will begin to be installed. And number 4, late summer will see the topping out of the concrete frame of the cube structure. Now, I'm sure there might be a couple words here that you don't know, and that's okay. You're not focusing on the details, you're focusing on the big picture. So what do you think all these points have in common? Do you have any idea? In other words, what I'm asking you is, what is the main idea of this talk? Is it A, listing the important architectural projects the city has done? B, is it outlining the costs of ambitious construction projects? Or C, is it describing the timeline of the city's latest architectural project? So based upon what you saw before, which of these do you think makes the most sense? That's right, it's C, it's the timeline, because in every one of the main points we looked at, there was a focus on the time. What will happen and when. And now, if you take a look at this IELTS Listening Section 2 exam task, you can see that the focus of the notes matches the main idea of the talk that we looked at. It's the time frame. So when you listen, you need to identify things like duration, months, seasons. These time words are the key words that you need to listen out for. So if you miss the context, then you miss the whole point of the task. Okay, so now take a minute to read the task. And then let's listen to the recording and see how many of them you can get right.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining me on our monthly excursion to visit new architectural and city planning developments in our city. Today, as you can see, we're here at the development site of The Cube, and its construction is well underway. Indeed, the year ahead will be an exciting year for Birmingham Development Company and its construction arm, Buildability, as the construction of The Cube continues at speed. This new building, valued at over £100 million, has been designed by the internationally renowned architects Make. Their design team, led by Ken Shuttleworth, has created a 17-storey cube aimed at providing a spectacular contrast to the increasing number of towers appearing in our city. The complex 142-week building programme that will transform our city skyline upon its completion is currently over halfway through its development. The building will continue to rise over the coming year, with each floor taking 2 to 3 weeks to complete. As you can see to your right, the first shipment of the special gold anodized cladding that will adorn the cube has now arrived on site, and from February, the glistening golden exterior will begin to be installed, bringing the unique building to life. Late summer will see the topping out of the concrete frame of the cube structure, with the intricate metallic fretwork screen beginning to take shape in the early autumn.
How was it? Take a look at these 5 answers and see how many of them you managed to get right. So 5 points on offer. What was your final score? Now I know that finding the main ideas when you have all this information and it's coming at you so quickly can be really hard, right? So if you feel like you need extra help with this or with any aspect of IELTS Listening Section 2, then please get in touch with us at Home Studies. We offer custom-made IELTS preparation courses with an experienced exam trainer like me on Zoom. So you can either sign up for a free trial with us or you can enroll on our e-learning course. Don't miss this chance to get the help you need to get the result you want. Just click the link below. Now, back to the video. Now, in the test, before you listen, you get a little time to prepare. It is essential that you make the most of this time, okay? For instance, if you get a map or a diagram like this, try to memorize as much as you can of it in the time you have. This will help you to come to the right answers. Let's practice. Pause the video and take 15 seconds to memorize this floor plan. Then press play when you're ready to do a task. Let's check your memory. So go and grab a pen and a piece of paper and then write down answers to my 4 questions. And please don't look back at the floor plan. See how much you could remember. Got it? Good luck. Number 1. What runs next to the cube? Number 2, what is the underground level used for? Number 3, what is in the center of the building? And number 4, where are the apartments? Here are the 4 answers. How many of them did you manage to get? Well, now that we're done with the warm-up, let's see how spending just 15 seconds on memorizing the plan can help you to perform better in an IELTS Listening Section 1 task. Here is the task. So you can see there's our floor plan, and then there's 5 options. There's restaurant with view, hotel, office space, exclusive shops, and waterside restaurant. Your job is to label the floor plan. So you need to write the correct letter A to G next to the questions below. So you can see the 2 options are not needed. If you can't choose between two options for an answer, then just write them both down, because one of them might be an answer to a later question, so then you will know because you can't choose an answer twice. Do you get what I mean? Good.
What has been accomplished to date in the city's regeneration has been nothing short of amazing. Yet, we hope to set a new benchmark for developments in our city. The Cube will bring forward a new standard of architecture and a building which will not only be its most striking waterside location, but also one which is identifiable around the world. The Cube breaks all the boundaries of what has been achieved in our city so far. The finished Cube will be a mixed-use building. It will house the city's first rooftop restaurant with panoramic views, whilst a boutique hotel and residential apartments below will feature internal views over the twisting atrium. Further down, high-specification Grade A office space is planned, with more exclusive retail and waterside restaurants at the base. The mailbox has already raised the bar in the quality and calibre of our architecture, and the retail offerings, worldwide brand names, and stylish restaurants have given our city a contemporary profile, rivaling the capitals of Europe. From the outset, the Cube's design team sought to create a new landmark building for our city which fits into its context and which draws people in. Lined with coloured glass and with an exterior clad in shimmering metal fretwork, the Cube has visible links to the city's heritage in engineering and jewellery manufacture. It was essential that the building created a strong visual presence, immediately identifiable as a gateway to the canal and city centre area to the north. Our city is a city of the future, and as a futuristic building with phenomenal foresight in style and design, the Cube is indicative of our plans in how we see our city developing. The Cube will help to elevate us onto a global stage. Now, let's go and have a look at the progress of the entrance gateway. What has been accomplished to date in the city's regeneration has been nothing short of amazing. Yet, we hope to set a new benchmark for developments in our city. The Cube will bring forward a new standard of architecture and a building which will not only be its most striking waterside location, but also one which is identifiable around the world. The Cube breaks all the boundaries of what has been achieved in our city so far. The finished Cube will be a mixed-use building. It will house the city's first rooftop restaurant with panoramic views, whilst a boutique hotel and residential apartments below will feature internal views over the twisting atrium. Further down, high-specification Grade A office space is planned, with more exclusive retail and waterside restaurants at the base. The mailbox has already raised the bar in the quality and calibre of our architecture, and the retail offerings, worldwide brand names, and stylish restaurants have given our city a contemporary profile, rivaling the capitals of Europe. From the outset, the Cube's design team sought to create a new landmark building for our city which fits into its context and which draws people in. Lined with coloured glass and with an exterior clad in shimmering metal fretwork, the Cube has visible links to the city's heritage in engineering and jewellery manufacture. It was essential that the building created a strong visual presence, immediately identifiable as a gateway to the canal and city centre area to the north. Our city is a city of the future, and as a futuristic building with phenomenal foresight in style and design, the Cube is indicative of our plans in how we see our city developing. The Cube will help to elevate us onto a global stage. Now, let's go and have a look at the progress of the entrance gateway.
Take a moment to check your answers. How did you do? How many of the 5 points in the test would you have got? I've said it before and I'll say it again. Please make predictions. After the instructions and before you listen, you'll be given a short time to look at the questions. Remember, you don't just use this time to read the questions, but you also try to predict the answers. So you can either guess the part of speech, like is it a verb or a noun or an adjective, or you can write down a specific idea you might have about what the word could be. Now, even if you don't guess the exact word, you'll more easily hear the right one when it comes up in the recording. Like you'll make the connection, like, oh, that's the word I'm thinking of, and you write it down. So we know why we need to predict. The next question is how. How do we go about this in the exam? Well, take a look at this exam task. It's on an orientation meeting for students who are studying abroad in South America. Pause the video and read the sentences. Then try and think about what kind of word could go in the gaps. So you can either think of the category of word, like is it a verb or a noun or an adjective, or you can try and think about what the specific word might be. You might have some idea. Pause the video and jot down your ideas, then press play when you're ready to compare yours with mine. So as I say, these are just my ideas, and I'm sure there are other options that could also logically fit the gaps. For 11, I went with card or cards, because a vaccination card is the thing where you have the record of any vaccinations you have. I thought number 12 could be illness or illnesses, because that collocates quite nicely with serious. For number 13, it was a logical guess, because I figured you would see a doctor for vaccinations if you were going to travel overseas rather than in your own country. Number 14 could be something like pills, because obviously you need to get these pills if you are going to go to a malaria hotspot. And number 15, I went for conditions. Again, because existing conditions or existing medical conditions is a collocation in English. Now that you're prepared, it's time to do the task. Write no more than 2 words for each answer. Good luck.
Hello there. Good afternoon. Thank you for finding the time in your busy schedules to come to the International Student Office's first orientation meeting for students going abroad to South America next autumn. By the way, if you haven't already signed next to your name on our attendance lists, they're located on the table at the entrance of the auditorium. Be sure to do it on your way out. Remember, this orientation meeting is obligatory, so you need to make sure we know that you're here. All right, to begin, we're going to be talking about health, and specifically the procedures that you have to go through in order to get your student visas for your host country. For all of you, this will entail gathering a folder of health information, such as vaccination records and proof from your doctors that you're not suffering from any serious contagious diseases. For many of you, this will also entail getting some extra vaccinations, depending on your destination country. All the specifics that each of you will need are to be found in your host country handbook that you received when you were accepted into the programme. Also, each one of you is required to attend a consultation with a doctor at the Student Health Centre who is specialised in travel medicine. The health centre can give you details about appointment times, but be sure to book your appointment early because the specialist is only at the health centre at certain times. To have the most benefit, you should have your meeting at least 4 to 6 weeks before your trip to allow time for your vaccines to take effect. Now, at this consultation, you will be given all the latest information about what vaccines you'll need and any other health considerations you need to be aware of. If you'll need to take medication for malaria, for example, or what to expect in case of any existing health issues.
Take a look at the answers. How many of the 5 points on offer would you have got in the exam? Now, check your answers carefully and check the spelling too, okay? Because if you get the right word, but you do not have the right spelling, then you get 0 points. And that hurts, but that's a reality. Now, as you might know, at the end of the first task, there is always a pause, and you should use this time to read and think about the questions for the next task. It can be quite a good idea to think about the words or expressions that might have the same meaning as what is written in the task. This means you can match the information in the task to the content of the talk and hopefully come to the right answers more often. Let's practice. So pause the video and read the definitions and try and think of what the missing words could be. Then press play to check your answers. How many of these defining language items could you get? I'll give you a little hint. They're going to be very useful in the exam task that we're about to do. So it's time for you to practice on your own. Pause the video and read the sentences and make some predictions about them. Give yourself 30 seconds to do this. Then, when you're ready, press play to listen to the recording. While you listen, write no more than 3 words and/or a number for each answer. Good luck.
Now, I want to talk in a bit more detail about some important health issues that many of you will face. First of all, I want to say a few things about malaria, which will apply to most of you with South American destinations. In most South American countries, malaria is present in some areas, but not in others. In Brazil, for example, the Amazon basin is a high-risk area, while the coastal cities, such as Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo, have a very low risk of malaria. So, if you will be studying in Sao Paulo, you will not need to take medication for malaria. However, if you are studying in Sao Paulo and doing fieldwork somewhere in the Amazon basin, then you will need medication. Likewise, if you plan to travel into rural regions, then you will need medication. You should be realistic about what your plans are, and if you decide not to take malaria medication, keep informed and don't travel to a high-risk area. We've had 2 instances of students returning with malaria in the last 5 years, and both cases had to do with spontaneous travel after their studies to areas with a high risk of malaria. Of course, there are quite a few other insect-borne illnesses that can be caught, so it's essential to avoid being bitten as much as possible, even if you are taking malaria medication. To prevent insect bites, you should wear long-sleeved shirts and long trousers whenever possible, and use an insect repellent on any bare skin. You should also bring a flying insect spray to help clear rooms of mosquitoes. The product should contain a pyrethroid insecticide. Bed nets treated with permethrin, if you will not be sleeping in an air-conditioned or well-screened room, are also a very good idea. Although it's not always possible, it's best to remain indoors in a screened or air-conditioned area during the peak biting periods of dusk and dawn. Finally, in much of South America, there is a risk of schistosomiasis, a rather nasty parasitic infection that can be contracted in fresh water. So do not swim in fresh water except in well-chlorinated swimming pools. Any questions so far?
Did you see how thinking of different ways to say or define words can be helpful in this task? Honestly, the key here is to find the connections between what you hear in the recording and what you read on your question paper. So check your answers. Of the 5 points on offer, how many of them did you manage to get? The ability to define language items or put things into other words is an absolutely essential skill in IELTS Listening Section 2, and we want you to get it right. That's why Home Studies is giving you a free practice pack for your self-study after the video. Just click the link in the description box below. Well, that's gonna do it. If you enjoyed the video, go on, give us a like, and do stay tuned for the next video tutorials in our IELTS listening series. Thanks for watching and cheerio!